Hey everyone, well tonight I am going to go ahead and start putting my transmission back together. It's out of my '04 Mountaineer with a V8 4.6 5R55S transmission. Now I've already assembled some of it. I've got the rear drum back in, and if you look real close there, if I can zoom in, there is a band that goes around there. That is your reverse band. Check that and make sure it's okay. I've replaced mine. To get that out, basically what you got to do, I've already put this in, I'm not going to pull it back out, but there is a clip. I don't know if you can see my finger. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Kind of tricky with the camera. Right there. That clip, you pop that clip off, and this planet will pull out, and you can get in there, and there's a secondary clip behind there. You got to have a pair of pliers to open the clip up. Once you get that clip off, this whole unit will come out. So I've already got that installed, and it's really hard for me to film and put that back in. So I went ahead and did it. And like I said, it's pretty simple. So like I said, you got your reverse band, and that is a reverse drum. Now what I've got to do next, I don't know what it was. Sometimes people have trouble getting that clip back on there. You see that clip there? Well, it's easy to take off, but when you put it back on and get all this set back in, the clip never goes back down in there. What you got to do is set the transmission up a little bit. Let me take the light. I'll try to make this video as fast as I can because I know it takes a lot of time to film this. If I set the camera here at an angle, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I usually take a screwdriver and put behind on that drum and kind of pry up on it a little bit. And when you pry up on the drum, and what it does, it lifts it forward, and it takes the slack out of this back part right here where my finger is, on the piece right there, and it allows you to set that clip back in there. It gives you enough clearance to put that clip in there. So that's how I figured that out. It works a lot better that way. If you're going to try to put that clip in there, just with that setting in there, you're going to have a problem because it doesn't want to go in there. You have to lift that drum up a little bit to get that clip in there. So once you get past that, you're okay. Everything else is pretty easy. Now I did find my problem. I've had this transmission out 2 times. Actually, this is my 3rd time, and it ran great. I would put it in first gear, go to take off, and sometimes I'd feel just a slight shudder shake, and it would be fine. Shifted through all the gears. Like I said, I bored the servos out. Couldn't figure out what the problem was, and sometimes in reverse it would slip a little bit. Well, it turns out I had a problem with the front, the forward clutches, which are right there. And I'll show you here in a few minutes what was wrong. And you do have to check this, because if you don't check what I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, you'll be ripping your transmission back out again and trying to figure out what was going on. And I overlooked this, which was something I normally don't do. But I'll show you that here in a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these other pieces here. There's not much. There's a sun shell and the rear planet and a couple bearings, and I'm going to go ahead and start sticking that forward clutch in, and I'll show you that piece that was bad. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll try to make this video as short as I can, and maybe if you're putting one of these transmissions back together, this will help you out in case you can't figure out a step or something. So there's a bearing that sits right there on top of that support right there, and that bearing is actually sitting right there on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and set that in there. It's hard to do and film at the same time, so I'll go ahead and put a few pieces in there, and I'll be right back, and I'll show you what I've done. Alright, I got the sun shell in and all that, and what I like to do when I stick this stuff in, I like to put everything in one piece at a time and spin it as I'm doing it, because it makes it work easier, and you can tell if everything's in there right. And also, some of these pieces, like the bearings and the rear gears and stuff, I like to set the transmission up like this and kind of stand up and drops things straight down. It makes it a lot easier, and that way you can actually take your other hand and kind of spin things around. If you can see it, a little dark, but everything looks pretty good. All I have to do now is go ahead and put in the drum. I mean the forward clutches. All right, I'm going to show you what was wrong. I'm going to set this light up here a little bit better so you can actually see. Like I said, I've had this out a couple of times. Let's set this light here. Shit. Somewhere. Some way. Okay, there we go. Okay, here are the clutches. Now, I got all the clutches back and everything, and I checked my clearances, and the book calls for 45 to 60, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I checked it in the house before I brought it out. And I am at 55. I've got a feeler gauge, and this is all perfect now. These clutches are in. Now, the problem I had rebuilt this. I didn't take this apart. That was my mistake. When I took this apart, I just basically used a couple of small vice C-clamps, which are like I have right there. And if you can see those, I put one on each side of this, and I squished this down, and I popped the snap ring off. Now, when I popped the snap ring off, you know, of course, you got to take all this out. It's not a big deal. It just pops right out. Once you take that out, there is a drum in there like this. And what was wrong, if I shine the light here, well, you can see this. You can see it seal right there? It's torn in two places. I did not see that. Maybe my eyes were bad, but when I put my finger back in, I felt something. I thought it was dirt, and I looked again, and it's torn. So there was my problem. I was losing pressure on this forward clutch. And when I would put it in gear, the pressure wasn't building up enough to put these clutches all the way engaged, and it was slipping a little bit. But the box in the transmission, the solenoid box, was applying more pressure, and once I would get going, it would be okay. So this has been replaced. So if you're going to check this forward clutch, make sure you check that seal, because I still can't believe that I overlooked this. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Let me see if I can see it there one more time. But it's torn pretty good, which I hear it happens a lot on these seals. And this seal you cannot pop off. You have to buy this whole a piece. And I actually bought this piece on eBay. There's a guy on there that sells a lot of these pieces and stuff for these transmissions. And I'm just kind of holding it one more time to look at it there. It's kind of hard to see, but there it is. I think you can see it a little bit better. Torn pretty good there. So this has already been replaced. And this, well, is now apart. So all I got to do now is drop this in. And I put my first band on and work my way up. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this on now and drop it in there. And we'll try to get this thing together here a little bit, little pieces at a time. And hopefully this will help you out. But definitely check this piston inside of this thing. As far as I know, there are no other pistons in these other clutch packs. There's only the intermediate and the overdrive, and I've checked them and they're okay. But this was my issue, it looks like. Alright, I'll be back here in a little bit, and I'll give you an update on what I've done so far. And also, you can see my pin is still in there for the servo. That'll help me out a little bit. Alright, I'll be back here in a few minutes. Alright, I got my nut freed up and screwed it back in there. You can see it there, my band for the adjustment nut. Now, I went ahead and put the pin on this side. If you can see it, I actually spray painted those so that I would know which way they go in. The anchor pins, and on the servo side, I use a magnet. Just kind of hold it in place. And I got to go over here and put my servo in. Don't forget to put your spring back in there. Put that back in there like that. You can see that. And it's right up against, I don't know if you can see that or not, back in there, but it's right where it should be. But, you know, if you get yourself a magnet, and you can work underneath the transmission with the hand off, you can get your fingers in it. You can hold that pin on that side, you're good to go. And this back band is on. All I got to do is put the cap and the clip on, and go ahead and bolt the centerpiece and put the nut in it. And then half the transmission's done, and the rest of it's pretty easy. So I may go ahead and finish this up, and I'll be back here in a few minutes, and we'll put the center support in too. Make sure it's going to go okay. Alright, I got my back servo in, the bigger one. That spring on the back side of the servo, it's a little tough to push that servo in there. You got to force it in there, but everything's in. And if you can see my anchor pin, there's one on that side, and there's the other one on that side. And I'm going to adjust this band. I'm going to get it go in. I'm going to have to go see what it is. I think it's 120 pounds. Then you back it out 2 turns, and you lock that nut. So that'll make that easier. I can turn everything now real easy. So Don't forget to adjust your bands on these new transmissions when you put them together, especially if you're putting in new clutches and all that good stuff. So let me go ahead and put the center support in, and we'll go from there. Alright, as you can see, I'm getting the transmission back together. There's the center support. I always put it in without putting that band back in there. I want to make sure everything's in there nice and tight, and it looks like that's in there just perfect. My clip should go right in there. A lot of guys have problems getting this back in there. It's actually just up a little farther than it should be, and the clip never goes back in there. So just this is how I do it, just to save myself an extra step, because if you put the band on there, you have to take all this back out and the band and figure out what you did back here. But let me just show you how easy this pulls out now. So it comes right out, and you got a bearing that sits on the back, and you can see there's the clutch pack. Now this clutch pack, it's got those clutches have got to slide down over this bottom gear. So if you look closely back there and zoom in, see that right there, that tab, it's got to go down all the way on that clutch band. Let me just see it right there. It's got to go down there about halfway. Not all the way, but about halfway. And you can see there's a little room there for it to go even farther, but if you get it about halfway, you're good to go. And behind there is just a couple of other, you got your sun shell and a couple bearings. So they're pretty easy to put on, but if you get past that, you work your way forward and you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put my rear band on. But right now, the problem I'm having is this nut. I want to loosen this up, the band adjustment nut, and adjust those bands while this is apart. But this nut is seized on there, so I'm going to have to heat it up and break both of these loose before I put my band on there and put this center support back in. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll put that band on and let you know how it's going after I get this nut broke loose and all that good stuff. So also check your gasket back and make sure it's okay. It is normal for a little crack there. There's a place there where, I don't know if you can see it, if I hold this at a certain angle, the gasket there splits apart a little bit. Of course, it's going to make a liar out of me now, and I can't find the place on it where it's cut. There it is. And right there where my thumb is, I don't know if you can see it or not. That's normal. Usually I can move around. Little cut right there. But that's the way those are made, both of those. So, alright, let me go ahead and finish this up here and see if I can get this nut, both these nuts frozen up. If I can get these unbroke loose, then it won't take me very long to put this back together. Alright, and there's the clip. The flat side, as you can see there, it goes on the back. It goes down just like this. I'm going to go ahead and stick this on here. I'm not going to be able, I'm going to have to use both hands. I'll have to put the camera down, but just so you know, once the clip goes in there, hard part's done. The rest is pretty easy to put together. So make sure you get that clip in there, because if you don't get the clip in there right, then you'll have problems. But if it's flush in there, then you know you've done everything to this point just like it should be to the factory specs. You're good to go. Alright, I got that little guy there. It's in. Now I'm going to stick the front gear here in with all these pieces. Looks like it shouldn't be too hard. But this goes in next, and you got your little sun gear there. Make sure that doesn't get flipped around. And if I put the camera down, let's see if I can do this a certain way here. This gear, it's got to go like this. The letters has got to go down. That's how that works. If you can still see it there. But alright, I'm going to put this in next. And the only thing left is the band and front clutch. So let me go ahead and do that. Alright, I got the front sun shell gear in there, and you can see, if you got it just right, you can see that'll be dead center in that first sensor. The two sensors you got there, you can always check and make sure everything is centered, and that is centered for the sensor. So that's one way you can make sure everything is nice and straight. And all I got to do is put in the sun gear. Kind of cut differently. You can see it's cut differently there. The top of it's got a little smaller cut in it. That goes up. Goes in there like that. And this piece, the numbers on the back side go down. Let's see if I can. And that's it. And all I got there left is my front band and that clutch pack. the front pump, and that's it. And this transmission is done. I just got to stick that band on there next, and that's it. So I'll be back here once I get all the band and the front clutches on, and hopefully that'll help you guys out if you're a first-time rebuilder. This is how I'm going to do it, so we'll see if it works out. But it should. I've done a lot of them like this before. Just make sure everything stays nice and clean. You don't get any debris or metal in there. But you should be able to spin this without any noise. It's very quiet, very easy. So that's one way to make sure you're doing kind of a heads up that you're kind of doing it the right way. Because if you had something in there wrong or backwards, it wouldn't turn that easy, and you'd have some noise. Alright, I'll be back here shortly and we'll finish this up. Alright, I'm going to put my front servo in, which is right there, the front one. And make sure that the seals aren't torn, just like the back one. Make sure there's no tears, everything looks good. And make sure you don't forget to put the spring on there, because I did that one time and I had to take the servo back off. But and everything's nice and clean. So I'm going to wipe this off and stick it in there. And of course there's my new, I think you can see it there, my new brass sleeve. Looks pretty good. Alright, let me put this in here, then I'll be back here and I'll show you what it looks like once I get the front clutch in there. I mean the front bands and the front clutches after I get the servo in. Also, check your cap covers. Make sure the seals aren't torn or anything. They're in good shape, and you won't have any leaks or anything, because you don't want to have to take one of these off when it's in there. But this one, both of mine look pretty good, so I just wiped them off and we'll reuse them. Alright, we'll be back in a few minutes and I'll show you what it looks like once I get the front band in there and the front clutches. Alright, got my front pump in, I got the band in. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but there's that band on that side, and there's that band on that side, and you can see my paint marks. I dabbed a little spray paint on them so I know which side, which one goes on. And main thing is which end goes up, because you can't, you don't want the thicker side going down. It's kind of a weird angle, but you can go online and get a lot of information on these pins, but that's how those goes. The fatter side goes on the upside against the drum, but it's all in now. If you look over here, you see both of my servos are in, and I got my nut in, and all I gotta do now is put my front pump in. Now when you put this front pump in, it's right there. I just gotta kind of put my pump valve in it, clean it up, and bolt it back together, and it's ready to go in. Not a big deal. Make sure you do not have this band rolled tight. You want to keep it a little loose. You want this to move around. Like that's a little too tight right there. Now that's better. See, I can move that around a little bit. Because when you put that pump in there, you want a little wiggle room to put that pump down on there. And I usually take my shaft and put it down on the pump and spin it as I'm torquing these bolts down, so the pump doesn't get into a bind or anything. And that way you know it's going on pretty straight. Alright, I'll go ahead and get this pump ready, and you can watch me stick it in, and I'll give you some advice on that. Hey guys, well, I thought I'd go ahead before I put the pump back on. I'll go ahead and check my valve pan here, gasket and all that, and cleaned the valve body out. Everything looks good, no metal. Got two check balls, got one right there, and I got one right there. Make sure you don't lose those. I took those out and took it outside and sprayed cleaner in it, and got everything nice and clean. And now I'm going to put the gasket back on. This is a molded, plated gasket. It's metal. The gasket's molded on both sides, actually glued from the factory, and the gasket's in really good shape, so I'm not going to worry about that. Clean it up. I'm going to bolt this back on and go ahead and stick the valve body on the transmission before I put the pump in, because that way I can put the oil pan on it and set it right up. That way I won't damage anything. And then I got my reverse servo, which is back there. I'll stick that on. So I'll be back here in a few minutes and we'll look at that. Alright everyone, new day. I stopped last night, so I figured I'd finish this up today. I went on ahead and stuck the front pump in. Pretty easy to do. Basically, I like to stick the shaft in first into the transmission, like that. Then take the pump and slide over that, and take a screwdriver and put it into this one hole, so that way your pump's nice and centered. And don't forget to put your plastic gasket on the back, the spacer, little spacer that sits on the back of the pump. I usually use a little bit of thick grease, some stuff I got over there. Makes it kind of stick pretty good, so I'll use a little bit of grease, stick on there. And I just like to drop the pump down, and I'll start a couple of bolts. And with this shaft in here, I will take a pair of vice grips and put a little cloth on there and grip it, kind of like this here. And what I'll put this on here real loosely for now. And you can see the shaft turns freely. Now I'll take 3 of these bolts and start torquing it down, and let the pump get tight and push it straight down. And as it's getting tight, I'll continuously kind of turn that a little bit, make sure nothing's binding. And that's basically how I stick the pump in. It's pretty easy to do. There's other videos online. I should have probably recorded this, but I got sidetracked last night, and I forgot to record it. But I'll try to record the rest of this. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do now, and after you get the pump in there and everything, you should be able to take a my fingers are all greasy today. Take your fingers and basically just slide the shaft in and out. You'll know it's in there right. And the thicker threads, see, the thicker threads, the longer threads go toward the torque converter. And let's see, it looks like the shorter threads go down toward the pump. And you should be able to just kind of slide it in there like that. It should drop right in, and you should be able to pull it back out. And you'll know it's in there right. And don't forget your gasket. You got a little gasket on there, the blue gasket, and make sure you don't tear it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and we'll put this valve cover on there, and actually the valve body, and a couple of smaller pieces, and I'll start sticking this in this afternoon, so I'll be back here shortly. Alright, I'm back, everyone. There's my transmission upside down in the light where I actually see. It's a pretty warm day today for late October, about 80 degrees, so I figured I'd take advantage of the weather. I'm going to go ahead and put the valve pan on here, body, but I wanted to show you what a lot of guys do. You have 3 bolts here. I've already loosened these up. These are T30s, little stars. And there's one here. Take those out. And this is your separator valve pan gasket, valve body gasket. And my gasket is okay. I've taken this off a couple of times and checked it. This is a factory. Let's see. Now this is the one I put on here a couple of months ago. This is brand new, so it's in really good shape. So I'm going to kind of set this off to the side right now. I'll clean it off a little bit. But in this particular valve body, you got a couple check balls. There's one right there, and there's one right there. I measured mine. One is 250 thousandths, and the other one is 240 thousandths. They're supposed to be 250. That one is wore down just a little bit, but I'm not going to worry too much about it because the transmission shifted fine. But this particular valve body, like I said, has 2. So you might want to research online in case you have a different transmission. Some of these have 3. Now, what a lot of guys like to do, there is a valve right here. Let's see, I'm in the right one. Yeah, right here. This is your transmission cooler. A lot of guys will take this out. There's a little clip right here. I'm going to pop this clip out, and I'm going to show you here in a second what a lot of guys do. I'll explain this real quick. When you first start your car up, your transmission's cold, and you're putting transmission fluid in. Well, this valve does not open up until the transmission warms up, and you don't have cooler flow, meaning that any fluid that is going through the transmission does not go into the cooler until the transmission temperature warms up to operating temperature. Then there's a little valve in here that will open up. Then the cooler transmission flow will start to work. So when you're cold and you're filling it up with fluid underneath of it, and you come back and you're driving it and you want to check it again, well, it's low. This is the reason why this valve opens up only when the temperature gets to a certain operating temperature. So to correct that, there's a little spring in here. I want to flip around, put the spring on this end where the valve is open all the time, and that way it'll always have cooler flow on the transmission. So this is a little trick a lot of guys do. And I know on this particular one, when you buy the valve body kit from Sominex, they give you all that stuff and they tell you to do that and all that. But I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I'm not installing a valve body kit in it because the valve it runs really good. It has no shifting issue whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. Alright, there is the cooler valve. I've got it out. Basically, take a pick and grab a hold of the little clip, which is right here. Kind of pull that out of there. Then you've got this piece here that holds it in there. That actually goes like this. Now, originally, this is how it's set in there. You got the support valve that holds it in. Then inside, this little thermostat valve right here you see, this is the one that opens up. It's a temperature valve. It opens up and gives you cooler flow. And then you got the housing, and you got the spring that sits back here. So it sits in there just like that. Now, what a lot of guys do, they basically take this spring, put it up front, make sure that your temperature sensor goes inside the housing, back in like this, if you can see that. There you go. It goes back in like this. And put the spring on this side. And what this does, it gives you transmission cooler flow the entire time. If you look in there, that port will stay open all the time, and you won't have to worry about waiting until it warms up to check the transmission fluid to make sure it's full. Basically, you stick it back in. I think I can probably do this with one hand, so I'll go ahead and try to do this real quick. Stick it in there like that, kind of gently push it in there. Take this guy here, put that right like that. Sometimes you got to jiggle it a little bit. Hold my finger there, and there it's in, right like that. Let me see if I can take this clip here, stick it in there real quick, pop it in there for you guys. I think we got it there. Alright, there it's in. That's basically all you got to do. So if you want to do that, you can. If not, that's fine. But I figure if the valve body was off, I might as well go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the plate back on here, and we'll start putting this back on the transmission there. And we've got the reverse servo and the solenoid block. And we'll put a couple bands in the bolts in the pan, and I'm going to drop this tranny back in the Explorer, which I know it's just dying to get back in so it can start rolling down the highway again. Alright, we'll be back here shortly, and we'll show you what I've done so far. Okay, I'm getting ready to bolt the valve body on. Make sure you get your parking piece right here in there just right. You can just kind of lift up on the valve body like that and kind of set it in there. Check your reverse band, make sure it's okay. Should have about ½ inch or so of play, not much. And make sure, you know, you get everything in there just right when you start putting this back together, and you should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt this down, and we'll do the reverse solenoid and this solenoid pack. I'll do it last, and there's something pretty important about that you need to know. I'll tell you about that when I come back here in a few seconds. Probably in a few minutes. Alright, I got the valve body all torqued down and everything. So we're looking pretty good there. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in my reverse servo. Now what you got to do, these come apart real easy. There's a plug right there. Unscrew that. Check it for debris. Clean it real good. And take this piston out and everything. There's a lot of videos online. Basically, you see that arrow there, you just turn it a little bit and it pops out right there. There's a spring in there, so make sure you grip it pretty good. And the spring will come out, and you can clean everything out, and there's a piston in there. Sometimes it can get torn. So you do want to check all that while it's apart. I'm not going to tear this apart because I've already had it apart and cleaned it, but I'll show you the spring real quick. You just kind of set this up. Hopefully you can see it. I'll show you what it's spring in there. So if you, okay, put my camera right there. There we go. Let's see, there we go. There's the spring, and if I hold this where the arrow is, on top of that right there, you just turn it, and the whole spring comes out like that. And I've already cleaned this out, and they're pretty good. And it looks like at this point, still not, it's pretty clean in there. So look, maybe a little dust in there. I got a little oil in there, and to put it back together, you just basically take the spring and hold it there like this. Set that down like that. And there's an arrow on the top right there. I think you can see it there, right there. Just kind of line that arrow up with that on the casing, and that little tab right there where my thumb is, push down on this piece there. And there you go. I always put the arrow right in the middle, kind of move it a little bit, center, that way it won't move around too much. That's all you got to do. So now I'm going to go ahead and stick this in there, and you got 2 holes on that side, 2 holes on that side for oils, so you can pretty much figure that out. The 2 goes like that on this side. Let's see, here, make a liar out of me. There we go. Sits in there like that. And I'm ready to bolt that down. It's got these long silver bolts. There's 4 of them. And I believe they are 10 millimeter. Let me check here real quick. Or 7/16. So figured out some of these bolts are 7/16. Let's see. Well, it's 7/16 fits pretty snug. And let's see, here's a 10. Yeah, between a 8, I think it's an 8mm. Yeah, it's either 8mm on this one, so that's what you got to do. So I'm going to tighten that down. I'll come back and we'll talk about this solenoid pack. And it looks like we just about got this thing wrapped up. Alright, let me go ahead and tighten this out and I'll be right back. Alright, here's my solenoid pack. Basically, it's a housing that sits on top of that. And you've got a gasket in the middle, and you've got your solenoid pack. Now, take off your gasket and check. Now, on mine, I have a little bit of debris right there. I'm going to clean that out and check your gasket, make sure there's no tears or anything. This is actually in pretty good shape, but one thing you need to know about these solenoid packs, they are not interchangeable. Let me repeat this. These are not interchangeable. 02, 03, 04, they all have different numbers. Now, the number that I look for is the manufacturer number. Now, I know Ford has a part number. Now, the manufacturer number that I found that helped me out a lot is right there. That AA, you see? Go online and look at this, and you can find a lot of these part numbers, the manufacturer's numbers, for each of these transmissions, especially for each year, because they have different shift points, and also I believe they have different pressure points in shifting this transmission. So if you're just going to go and buy one and stick one in, well, good luck to you, because you're probably going to have some issues with it. But like I said, these are not interchangeable, and I did not know this until the other night when I was doing research. So I made sure that this particular solenoid pack goes with this particular transmission year, which is an 04 Mountaineer, and with my 03, which is sitting over there, which it's finished up. Actually, it looks pretty good, don't it? I'm very excited to drive it. That transmission's all done, and it runs perfect now. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt this on there, and basically clean up a couple things, and put the pan on there, and put a few bolts in the pan so I don't damage anything when I put it on my transmission jack, which I have, which has been a lifesaver. And the next video that I make will be me driving this, letting you know how everything feels, how it shifts, and all that good stuff. So that'll be pretty much the end of the video. And good luck. And like I said, I'm no expert, but hopefully this video will help you out. And if you love your Explorer, like I do, save yourself a lot of money, because I know this transmission, if you had to go get it rebuilt, probably $2,000 or $3,000, or even to buy a used one, $600, $700, $800. Bet you don't know what you're getting. All right, so that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, everybody, and good luck, and take care, and have a great day. All right, well, hello, everyone. It is a cool, crisp fall morning. Just had a little rain. I thought I'd go out and take my Mountaineer for a spin, and everything seems to be okay. It's shifting perfect. See that RPM dropping down there. There's third gear. Looking pretty good. As I get up on the highway here, I'll be in, get it up in the fourth and fifth, but I'm happy with it. Shifting like it should. See that RPM there? Just kind of dropping down. There's fourth gear. No problem. Running great. So, looks like I actually went into fifth gear there at 35. Which is pretty cool. Yeah, I got a low tire. But very happy with it. So, hopefully if you're working on the Mountaineer or these transmissions, if you get it back together the right way, you shouldn't have too much of a problem with it. But shifting great, and that forward clutch piston I replaced, had to tore and seal. It took care of the slamming in reverse too. It goes into reverse drive real nice and easy now, just like it should. So I thought I'd make a quick video, show everybody it's running pretty good there, and I'm happy with it. So good luck, guys. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Like I said, I'm no expert, but I've done enough of them to know that if you put them back together the way they were built, you should be okay. So thanks for watching this video, and good luck, everybody, and be safe.